Hello, everybody. Welcome to another APRO Mini Session webinar here with Esquire Advertising. My name is Adam Ball, Director of National Sales. We're looking forward to talking with you guys today. This is a topic that I have really wanted to do a talk about for a long time. It's a question that I get asked very, very often, and it's really the main basis behind why Esquire was started. So really excited to have Eric Grindley here to really walk you guys through this topic. Hopefully you guys find this interesting and something that you can utilize inside of your businesses to help you guys further your advertising efforts and continue growing your businesses.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. And this is a traditional sort of APRO mini session, but it's going to be done a little bit differently. Adam and I actually recorded this talk for the APRO President's meeting, and it went really well. It was really well received. And so after talking with the folks at APRO, we decided that what is probably best that we do is just edit that video together for you all, so that way you could view it. And so the talk in total is pretty quick. You're going to be spending about 10-15 minutes learning about fraud. And I think it's a really important topic for you to understand a little bit more about how fraud works on the internet and what we really mean when we're talking about fraud and how that can kind of affect your advertising. So thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of the APRO organization. And as always, if you all are in need of any sort of internet marketing, digital marketing needs, we're here for you. We have our Esquire exclusive program that is open to all APRO members. This allows you to get matched advertising dollars on all your campaigns. So if you're putting up, $10, we're matching you $10. You get a $20 a month campaign. So there's a lot of great things that we're doing. And sit back, enjoy the talk. We hope to hear from you soon. So my name is Eric Grindley. I'm the CEO and founder of Esquire Advertising, and I am going to, obviously we only have about, I think 10 minutes to talk about this. And so this is going to be sort of like a very broad strokes overview. And what we're really talking about is internet fraud that affects advertising and how that directly affects the advertising that you do every day and really what that is. And this kind of came about because Adam's had questions from a lot of people in the industry about why do I have a ton of clicks on an ad that I'm working with this company and it's just not working, or what do you mean when you talk about fraud? And so we thought we would kind of like dive into that a little bit more for you so you could kind of better understand the statement fraud when it comes to online advertising. And so can you all see my screen? I do have a presentation that I shared, but hopefully you can see that.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. So the scale of ad fraud in the United States and in the world for that matter is really hard to understand. And it's hard to understand because the companies that are really forced to kind of regulate this are not incentivized to regulate it, right? So, you look at like search advertising like Google, Yahoo, you look at social media platforms, they make money off of the fraud that's on there. And so there's not really one conclusive answer to understand truly where fraud resides and at what level it is in the United States. I can give you a basic, sort of like anecdotal answer, which is I had a period of time where we were buying a lot of display advertising. This is years ago, back in like 2014. And we were spending, upwards of $10 million a month on advertising and display. And we would look and track and trace the ads that would go out and look at the traffic that came through those ads. And more often than not, about 70% of the traffic that we were receiving was fraudulent. And that fraud is what we're going to talk about today. Is why is it that about 70% of ad traffic that is given just generally out there on the internet, why is it fake or fraudulent, as we would call it? And a lot of that is given towards what's called bots and crawlers. But there's a whole lot of different types of fraud that's out there. There's, click fraud, there's affiliate fraud, there's bot traffic, there's domain spoofing, impression fraud, ad stacking, MFAs. There's so many things that can happen. The reality is that the majority of it's coming from two main areas. The first one is basically just broad-based bots and crawlers. So this number has only been going up essentially year over year. There's been like small little deductions here and there, but pretty much year over year, the last year was 101% increase of bot traffic. And what this is like crawlers for different websites, for search engines. We're seeing a rise right now in AI crawlers. So every new AI service that exists, they basically have to build a crawler to go out there and grab information. So these servers are going out and basically scanning all the websites, interacting with ads, doing all the normal things that a normal human would do, but it's a computer. And that computer is responsible for about 33% of all internet traffic today. And Cloudflare, which is a massive internet platform, basically backs up websites, so your website doesn't go down, basically monitors this. And their most recent statistics were about a third of all internet traffic was bot traffic. They also noted that AI traffic was on the rise, and that they were seeing about 15% increase just in the last quarter from AI traffic. So you're going to start to see that go more and more and more. So all of these things really sort of start to add up. And then the other massive source of this is just fake accounts, right? So on social media platforms, when you're not doing search or display, you're doing socials. On social platforms, it's fake accounts. And the reason behind fake accounts can range from people trying to do fraudulent things online, right? Like trying to influence conversation, to try and run products that are not allowed by the terms of service, and so they create a bunch of accounts. And there's a whole host of reasons why somebody might want to create a fake account. But those fake accounts are a lot. And what I put into this presentation was just the numbers that have been published by these platforms. Now, again, are they going to really come out and tell you exactly how many fake accounts there are? No. Like, they're not incentivized to find fake accounts. They're not incentivized to get rid of fake accounts. They make money off of the ad traffic that's ran to fake accounts. And so I think when you look at like how many that they're identifying in like this 4 to 5% area, it's probably significantly more than that. There's a lot of companies out there that are not even reporting a number at all, right? They'll just say, hey, we shut down X amount of accounts. But these accounts just keep on growing, right? So there's about, over 3 billion users on Facebook. They say at any time there's about 4 to 5% of those users that are fake. Those people are interacting on your ads. And so in social traffic, if you basically get an ad that's out there in the stream and it's talking to all these people, right? And bots start interacting on your ad. Well, Facebook's own algorithm is going to essentially tell that ad to serve to more bots, right? Because the way the algorithm works is it's saying, hey, we're going to serve this ad to people that are most likely to click, to go to the website, to do whatever it is. And so whatever those bots start interacting on, right? Like they start clicking on your ad, well, then they're going to serve it to more things that look like that bot, right? So therefore other bots. And so it's just going to keep on growing. And so you can kind of get stuck into these bad streams of traffic. So if you have an ad that you're running on social media that's getting a lot of clicks, and you're paying a really low cost per click for it, and it seems like it's clicking really well, but the conversion rate on it is absolutely garbage, and you're not getting anything from it, whether or not that's in store or online, that's a reason to kind of tell you that you're in a bad stream of traffic, and you need to basically shut that ad group down completely and restart the campaign. It's the only way to get out of that bad stream of traffic. And this is pretty much the same across all platforms. Now, I'm sure not a lot of you use LinkedIn for a business purpose, but probably maybe to find employees, to just, network or whatever. Again, LinkedIn is blocking, 100 million plus accounts, right? Now, LinkedIn claims that they block about 97% of these accounts from the outset, because they go through a much more stringent verification check when you try and sign up for a LinkedIn account. So it's harder to make a fake account on LinkedIn. But if it's harder to make a fake account on LinkedIn and they're doing 120 million, I would imagine on Facebook it's much, 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 much larger, right? And then you have other places like TikTok and YouTube and Snapchat and Twitter, and all of these places are just flourishing with bots and with crawlers and with fake accounts that are just disrupting your ads every day. And then you have what's called MFAs. These are made for advertising websites. So this is where you're basically using like a display network, right? So let's say they use Google Display Network to do some PPC. There's a whole cottage industry or business out there that make these websites that are what we call MFAs, and it's basically a site that is designed to increase the CPM for the website holder, right? And so they're stacking ad groups in there, they're doing all sorts of things, but in order to basically get Google to pay them more for each visitor that comes to the site. The traffic off of this is pretty crappy because the user is essentially all like fat thumb clicks. They can't get out of the website once they're in it. They're really stuck in this sort of loop, and it's not really good traffic. And the only way to really prevent this is that you identify a blacklist of websites that are known MFAs, and then upload it to your campaign to say, hey, please don't serve to these sites. Because again, they're not incentivized to not serve to those sites for you. And so, for the individual small business that's going out there and doing any advertising on their own, this process is pretty much almost impossible to do, right? You don't know what that list of websites is. How do you go and find it? There isn't really like a good like code red list that exists like in email, and so you have to use, a service that you trust in order to really kind of get through this and to get around it, so that way you don't get stuck into this area of traffic. The other thing I wanted to present to you, because this is very rare that this happens and actually gets to this point, is that fraud has become such a problem on social media, right? That there is actually a lawsuit right now that is going on against Meta from an advertiser who basically said that there was a 400% increase in fraudulent traffic on their ads from fake accounts, right? A 400% increase in traffic, which they didn't see any benefit to, right? And they just paid for this traffic and they saw zero benefit to them. They actually sued to try and recover up to $7 billion in damages. It's a class action lawsuit. They've like enjoined all the unnamed sort of plaintiffs into it. And it's actually set to go forward. It was expected that it would get dismissed or settled out of court, but nothing happened with it. And so the court decided that it is going to go forward, and it's supposed to go forward, I believe, later this year or next year. So um, uh, basically, what that kind of tells you is that the state of which fraud is at, that there'd be a case for $7 billion. This has been tried against Google before. It's been tried against Yahoo before, and it's always either been thrown out or settled. They've never actually taken the risk to go forward on it. My guess is that it probably will end up settling now that the court has said it can go forward. But you never know. It's something to kind of watch. You might get like a rebate check if you've ever done any advertising on Meta. And so, things that you can kind of look for, that kind of can, show you what might be fraudulent traffic when you're getting it. For me, the biggest thing to look at is click-through rate. The reality is that if you look at national click-through rate standards and then what people are typically getting on like Meta and some of these others, if you're exceeding a 5% click-through rate on your ad, there's a high likelihood that there's a lot of fraud on that ad, or you just have one of the most viral ads that's ever existed. The reality is that click-through rates in the United States, when you remove out bot traffic, when you remove out fraud, usually hover around 1 to 2% and in that range. When you take fraud out of the equation, it sort of gives you the real truth of what you get for a click-through rate on an ad. And the idea that anybody's getting 5 or 6% for a click-through rate on an ad that's not fraudulent is just crazy. If you think about your own way that you surf the internet, how often do you actually click on an ad? Well, every consumer is just like you and like I, and we know well enough to not click on most ads. And so, reality is that real click-through rates are in the single digits. And then, you can get into this idea of trying to get some sort of, an Overwatch type program. There are companies out there that will do sort of fraud analysis for you and overwatch your ads. I think until you're spending, upwards of $1 million a month, most of those companies are going to overcharge you quite highly, to do that. It's going to run up the cost, and then it's like, does it really offset it? For us, our company has been focused on identifying fraud and eliminating it from the ads. And so when we serve ads, we serve it to everybody on a one-to-one basis, and we know who the consumer is that's receiving the ad. That's the thing that makes advertising more powerful, because you remove the fraud out. So when you remove the fraud out, you can be more efficient with your dollar, your ad dollar. So there are ways that you can go about it. You can find a monitoring program. You can monitor your click-through rates. You can pull ads out, relaunch them, and keep trying that. If I was running just a general blanket ad on Facebook, I would always start by running my ad for 24 to 48 hours and running it on a small budget and see what it looks like. And then from there, if the click-through rate looked normal, if the traffic looked well on my website when they were coming through, they weren't bouncing too much. They were spending some time on the website, online with what our average consumer is spending on the website. Once I've gone through these, then I would then expand my budget and go, okay, now I'm willing to spend the $1,000 for the month or the $2,000 for the month, but not until I spent about $100 over 24 to 48 hours and just saw what the results were. By doing that, I can kind of tell you if you're going to be in fraud traffic or if you're going to be in legitimate traffic. It's not foolproof, but it's the best thing that you have when you don't have like a system like ours to use, or you don't have, some sort of a data layer that you're going to be utilizing in order to try and eliminate the fraud. So I know that's a lot of information and a really sort of basic overview. But if you're interested at all in learning more about this, having other discussions, happy to talk to you one-on-one. You can reach out to myself, you can reach out to Adam, and we can tell you more about it. If you want to find out how you can run advertising without fraud in it, you can talk to Adam. He can tell you about how our program works and how it utilizes data on individuals in order to really get down to the right person and not just serve ads to everybody. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.